Welcome in, everyone, to the Football Addicts Anonymous podcast. Good to have Chris back.
How's it going?
Without Logan, but it's all good. Mark's at a Hall of Fame committee meeting for Shepherd, so not here. But yeah, it's a pretty good week. Not as much going down this week. Still a bunch of stuff, though. Got USFL week 9 to look at, previewing the last week of the regular season. And then we got some news, and we'll finish up with the NFC West's drafts in the 8th round.
Mm-hmm.
So to start off here, we had on Saturday 2 games. Generals 8-1. They continue rolling.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers, who fall to 1-8. Panthers gave them a good game. Eric Berrier almost brought him back, which had no clue Eric Berrier was on the Michigan Panthers. They had to have just signed him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he almost brought him back, and then they missed a 4th down conversion, I believe. No, he got picked off. Picked off at the jersey 47. So they got pretty far. They got almost within field goal range. They got to the jersey. Where was that play from scrimmage? They got to the Michigan 46-yard line. So they probably only needed 15 yards maybe to have a chance. But alas, they are 1-8. Jeff Fisher, the Fighting Jeff Fishers are. The quarterbacks for Jersey did not do much at all. Neither over 100 yards passing. DeAndre Johnson with a pick. He didn't run the ball at all. He did, but it wasn't for anything worth noting. The rushing offenses were so-so, but probably the 2 best players on the field were Joe Walker, as you can see, 129 on 7 receptions, 2 touchdowns on 9 targets for the Panthers. And then Darius Shepherd, former Packer, 8 receptions, 99 yards, and a touchdown on 11 targets there. Lance Lenoir got targeted 10 times as well for Michigan. And then Kavontae Turpin, he didn't score on offense this week, but he continued to score touchdowns, this time getting the first return touchdown this season in the USFL, 71-yard punt return touchdown for Turpin in this game. Defensively, I'm going to go on the winning end and go David Rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Generals, 4 tackles, 3 of them solos, 2 pass deflections, and a forced fumble.
Yeah, this one looks like it was a solid game, not all around, because you already alluded to the offense for Jersey not doing too well, but that defense bailed them out in this one, obviously creating, 3 interceptions? I don't know if there was any more interceptions, probably not, but the defense coming up big in this one. What most people probably thought was going to be an easy game for them turned into almost probably the biggest upset of the year if it happened.
We'll get the biggest upset of the year. But yeah, it was 3-1 in favor of the Generals turnover battle.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers did cover plus 7.5 over 46.5 by a couple, 1.5 points. Gamblers, see, Chris, you let into it. The upset of the season. Gamblers, they are the team to take down the Birmingham Stallions. Gamblers 2-7 now, 17-15 win over 8-1 Birmingham now. And Jamar Smith played pretty well. 261 touchdown and a pick, 68% completion. Neither team could run the ball. Kenji Bahar was the leading rusher in the game with 36 yards. But yeah, Houston's defense really got it done.
Mm-hmm.
They got let me see what so they only got one. Actually, Houston didn't get any turnovers. But they just got stops.
Yep.
Stops, sacks. Does it show the sacks? It does not show sacks on the matchups, but yeah, they got the sacks they needed and the stops. 2 sacks, 1 pick, 6 pass deflections, and 5 tackles for loss for the Houston defense.
Yeah, I mean, you said that Houston was getting stops. Well, all you got to do to realize that is look down at the bottom line there. The kicker, Brandon Aubrey, for Birmingham, his long of the day was 28 yards, which means they were stopping him a lot in the red zone.
Yeah, 0 for 3 for the Stallions in the red zone. 0 for 2 were the Gamblers in the red zone. The Stallions outgained them by a lot. 329 to 187. The Stallions had 17 more plays. And they had 8 more minutes of possession.
Yeah, all the stats point to that the Stallions should have been winning this game, but I mean, we already said it. The defense for the Gamblers came up big.
Yeah, and the difference, the 2-point difference, is not on here because it wasn't credited to anyone on the stat sheet because it was by penalty. But the Gamblers got a safety, intentional grounding in the end zone. And that ended up being the 2 points that they needed because both teams scored touchdowns after that. Both teams missed 2-point conversions after that as well. Because it was 11-9, I believe, was the when they got the. So it was 6-6, and then it was 9-6, and then 11-6. Birmingham scored, missed a 2. They're up by 1. Houston scores, missed the 2. They're up by 5. And then Birmingham kicked a field goal with 8:05 to go. And the Stallions then moved the ball not very far. They got to their own 35 with 1:22 to go. And then Jamar was picked off, the only turnover of the game. But yeah, Palka, the leading receiver here, 6 for 83, 9 targets. Victor Bolden had 10 targets for Birmingham. Marlon Williams, 12 targets for Birmingham, both pretty solid days. Adrian Hardy scored. Isaiah Zuber scored for their teams. And then, both kickers, 3 for 3. Nick Vogel, 50 long on that one. They played a pivotal part, scoring a lot of the points in the game, 18 of the 32 points. And then defensively, I don't know. It's a tough one. There's a lot of good defensive performances, but I am probably going to pick Micah Abernathy. Gamblers, 9 tackles, 5 of them solos, tackle for loss, a pick, and 2 pass deflections.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to highlight the losing end too. The guy DeMarcus Gates there. it might have been a losing effort, but the stat that I like the best there is the 3 tackles for loss. I mean, he only had a half a sack, but that also meant that he was getting in the backfield for when it was like a wide receiver screen, or he got in the backfield when the running back had the ball, which that's important too.
Yeah, also 11 tackles, 8 of them solos. And Donald Payne. I say it every week. Donald Payne is a tackling machine, and he deserves a spot on a roster come training camp in the NFL. Another 12 tackles in this game, 7 of them solos, a tackle for loss, and a pass deflection.
Well, he's only got one more game in this season, so then are the teams that don't make the playoffs, are their players free after that, or do they have to wait till the season's over?
To sign with the NFL, I believe they're free whenever.
Okay.
Don't know the exact specifics of the contracts, but that's my belief anyways. The Gamblers, the biggest underdog to win this season, plus 12.5, winning outright. And then under 43.5.
Just a bit under.
All right. Sunday, yesterday, the game of the week. I thought it was going to be. It turned out to not be that great. Just a absolutely dominant defensive performance by the New Orleans Breakers. 17-6, they clinched their spot in the playoffs, the last spot that was open. Tampa needed to win out, or have New Orleans lose this one and lose next week. Get it done. Jordan Ta'amu, I thought, played very nicely despite the 2 interceptions. I mean, he had 374 total yards, 280 passing, 86 on the ground. But not as great completion percentage. And like I said, 2 picks. Quarterbacks for New Orleans did not do very good. But again, their defense was setting them up all day. They got, I don't remember if it was 3 or 4. 4. They got 4 turnovers. It was 4-2 in favor of New Orleans. Yeah. Couldn't run the ball for Tampa. Juwan Washington was their leading rusher outside of Ta'amu. 2 for 9 yards. Their guy with the most carries ran for negative yards. DJ Emmons, he ran for 13 times for negative 1 yard. That's a negative 0.1 average. He did have a long of 8. So, yeah. And
That's
then
pretty
he also
impressive that he ended
fumbled.
up in the negative.
Yeah, he fumbled the ball too. So. But anyways, Rashard Davis had a great day, 6 for 112 and a touchdown. The only touchdown for Tampa. He put the ball on the ground as well. Sal Cannella scored touchdown. And then, like I said, defense was lights out. 4 out of our 5 people here are for the Breakers. Very difficult to pick. But I'm going Gerard Fernandez. Linebacker, 8 tackles, 5 of them solos, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles.
Yeah, that's the guy I'd go for too. I was thinking about Adonis Alexander there, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe you feel the same way, maybe you don't, but I don't really take fumble recoveries as a telling stat because that's all about the way the ball bounces once it's on the ground. I think the forced fumbles are the better stat to look at.
Right place, right time. But yeah, Adonis had a good game, 2 turnovers for him. The Breakers covered minus 3.5, under 43.5. Last game of the weekend, the Stars 17-16, 1-point win over the Pittsburgh Maulers, Battle of Pennsylvania. Again, terrible quarterback play all around. Vadley gave it up 3 times for Pittsburgh. KJ Costello and Case Cookus weren't good at all. They did enough though. Matt Colburn was the star of the game. 12 carries, 97 yards, touchdown, 8.1 yards per carry. He had a 51-yard touchdown run. That's where most of his yards came from. And then he put it on the ground. Chipped in 1 reception for 6 yards as well. Paul Terry scored. Garrett Groshek actually finally had a good average. Because anytime Logan has been on the show and we have a Maulers game, Garrett Groshek's average is just terrible. But he had a good one this game, 4.4. Weirdly enough, Hunter Tedford led the game in receiving. 3 receptions for 50 yards for the tight end for the Maulers on 4 targets. Trey Walker scored. Bug Howard scored on a fake punt, a fake field goal. And you can see at the bottom, before we get to defense, I had the kicker and punter for Pittsburgh because they were pulling out everything. They had nothing to lose, being a 1-7 team going into this game. They were like, all right, we'll fake punt. Max Duffy hits 19-yard completion. All right. Same drive, I believe it was. Ramiz Ahmed, fake field goal, Bug Howard, touchdown, 14 yards. But Ramiz Ahmed, he is the guy to go for if you need a long-range kicker. He made a 61-yarder last week, 59 this week, but he missed the one that counted, the one that mattered. He missed an extra point that mattered too. But the field goal that mattered, Vad brought them down the field at the end. He had 2:18 to go when they started that drive. They went 8 plays, 33 yards in 125. And Ahmed missed a 49-yard field goal.
I mean, 49 is nothing to laugh at or whatever, but I mean, the one he did make, you put there, it's 59, so 10 yards deeper. So, I mean, it's not like that was out of his range. It was just, I guess it was a bad kick.
Yeah, pushed right when I watched it. Luis Aguilar, the kicker for the Stars as well, missed 2 field goals. One came late that could have made Pittsburgh drive for a touchdown instead of a field goal. They had gotten a turnover. The Maulers fumbled the ball on their own 34-yard line. They recovered it at the 27. And then they went 3 and out. Did Philadelphia. And Aguilar missed a 46-yarder that would have made it a 4-point game instead of a 1-point game. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. And then, Philly got it done, I guess. Lucked out. Again, they don't have anything to play for. They're already locked in. But, defensively, only had 3 people. There weren't a lot of stats. Chiava Tazzino for the Maulers, easy favorite for defensive player of the game. 8 tackles, 6 of them solos, 2 sacks, a pass deflection, 2 forced fumbles.
Yeah, that's the one bad thing about there being not a lot of teams is that now next week it's all essentially exhibition games because nobody has anything to play for now because the spots are all locked up. And I mean, the records for the non-playoff teams don't matter, right? Because there's no draft or anything, right? Or are they doing a draft?
I am not sure. I haven't heard anything about a draft. I mean, obviously they had the
inaugural draft, yeah.
Initial draft, yeah. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's going to be a draft. They could. I mean, the CFL has a draft. So I know when we had our good friend Russ Landy on here He talked about that a little bit with how the CFL operates. And it's just a different way of scouting. You're not looking at the top guys. They're going to go to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to look at the guys that might get drafted in the late rounds.
Yeah.
Might sign as undrafted free agents, and then you're looking at everyone else. So.
Yeah. Well, the other, if they don't have a draft though, like I feel like that messes with competition too, because if there's no draft and it's all just free agent signings, they're all going to want to sign with like New Jersey or Birmingham because those are the top 2 teams. So everybody's going to want to sign there.
Right, but how can you have free agency without different contracts? All the contracts are the same. All the contracts are standard.
Yeah. Well, still, if I'm just saying, like, if you have players that can sign with whichever team they want, people are going to want to go to those 2 teams.
Yeah. But and it's different because I guess they do have GMs. I'm not exactly sure. But I don't think I don't think they do. I don't think they have GMs. I think the coaches are the GMs. I believe anyways.
Yeah.
Because obviously they don't have owners.
Yeah.
Fox
I forgot they're all owned by the same thing right now.
Yeah, Fox Sports owns all 8 teams.
So I guess that could be another way to prevent the competition thing is like they just sign on with the USFL and then the USFL assigns them a team.
Yeah, I mean it's been different because there have been transactions.
Yeah.
So as we saw, Eric Berrier signed with the Panthers, KJ Costello signing with the Stars.
Uh-huh.
The Maulers don't have any quarterbacks that they started the season with. So, yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see though how like the off season and next season, if it hopefully I hope it happens because it is very interesting to see like this kind of league happening. But it'll be interesting to see how it all happens.
Yeah, not gonna lie though. If I was an agent, I would instruct my player to obviously they're gonna wait till the NFL season starts if they don't make a roster there. But I would instruct my player to keep training and wait until the XFL draft.
Oh,
That's just me projecting the XFL to win the war against the USFL next spring. The Maulers covered plus 8.5 and under 47.5. Okay, so next week, last week of the regular season, we have some interesting games. Saturday, June 18th, we have this is the most interesting one, I think. The Stars 6-3 against the Generals 8-1. That's 12 p.m. USA.
Is that the playoff matchup too?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, do they start anyone? If they do, how long do they play? And, you can't show anything.
Yeah, I'd bet on the Stars to win that game.
Well, I didn't write down the odds because I didn't have them until how I look on the Fox Sports app, and they did put them up. The Generals are 2.5-point favorites. Over-under is 43. And if I can see a roster here, of course, I can't click on the position button to sort by position on Fox Sports. But if they did not play their initial starters, I would think possibly Kyle Mauletta would get the start for the Generals with DeAndre Johnson or Louis Perez backing him up. And then if you're looking at the Stars quarterback situation, not starting Case Cookus, KJ Costello could possibly be the guy. He would have to be the guy. He's the only other quarterback on the roster other than Brian Scott, who we know is not coming back this season. That's the quarterbacks anyways. I don't know what's going to happen with the other ones, the other positions, but I think that's the most intriguing game, I think, with being that you're playing the same team the next weekend, a week later.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but do you remember who won the first matchup for that one? Oh, it was the Generals, right? Yeah. Because the Generals only lost to Birmingham.
Why did it not go all the way? Okay, it didn't go all the way back. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, Jersey beat Philly week 3, 24-16. But yeah, I would probably say Philly wins too.
Philly wins with the under.
Yeah, probably. I agree. The second game, the 8-1 Stallions against the 4-5 Bandits. I think Tampa has something to play for. They want to get to 500. They do not want to have a losing record. So I think that's what Todd Haley will preach in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I picked them last week. They didn't get it done. But if Birmingham is resting people, I think Tampa will play their starters and they will win the game. Birmingham, 3.5-point favorites. Total is 41.5. 4 p.m. on Fox. Go.
The only thing with that game though too is, if there is a draft or if there is anything that their records would affect, does winning or losing matter for them?
For Tampa, no.
For Tampa, no. Okay.
No, they're 2 games above. Houston's the next closest person. Quarterback situation for Birmingham if they don't start Kumar. Could be Alex Magoo if they wanted to play him. I'm not sure where he is. I know he had gotten hurt. I'm not sure what his situation is. They do have one other quarterback on their roster. It's Montel Cozart, a guy from Boise State. And yeah, like I said, I think Tampa plays all their guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sunday, the 19th, we have the 6-3, or no, I don't know why that switched on my screen. We have the 1-8 Panthers against the 1-8 Maulers. So this is where the if there is a draft situation, the winner loses. If there's a draft, whoever this would be number 1 pick. So that game, Panthers are 2.5-point favorites. 42 is the over/under, and that is 12 o'clock on USA Network. I would probably have to go with the odds makers and say that Michigan wins, but Jeff Fisher is terrible.
Yeah, I would have to agree there.
But I think it all depends on who starts at quarterback. We from our time doing the FCS, I love Eric Berrier, Eastern Washington. Badley has, I thought, played well. He gave him a chance to beat Philly, and Ahmed missed the kick. Roland Rivers only threw 3 balls. I thought he had played better than Vad Lee as of late, but obviously they didn't give him an opportunity. It was Vad Lee the entire game pretty much. So yeah. Maybe I'm talking myself into flipping and picking Pittsburgh, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. I'd still roll with Michigan, but yeah,
So bad.
I don't know. This is just going to be. I think it's going to be a bad game either way. Obviously, it's for the worst 2 teams in the league. So, but again, I could be wrong. Well, actually, wait. These teams are both 1-8, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and they've already played each other once this season. So one of them, the only win they had all season was against that other team.
The Panthers beat the Maulers 24-0 in week 3.
Yeah. And that was probably the high point of the Panther season. And the Maulers, I mean, I don't know if they really had a high point this season.
The Maulers' win was against the Gamblers, who are 2-7, 21-20 in week 5. The stat comparison favors Michigan. It is 4-2. Michigan gets points per game, pass yards, rush yards, and rush defense. Pittsburgh gets points allowed and passing defense. So when I look at that, I'm flip-flopping for the second time. Because Pittsburgh has a terrible rush offense. They run for under 100 yards per game, 94.4 yards per game on the ground. So that's terrible. And then with Michigan's rush defense being so good, I'm going with them.
So there's a solid chance that they end the season with under 1,000 rushing yards on the season because there's only 10 games, and 100 per game would be 1,000.
Possible. I don't know what their total looks like right now, but and then the last game, the 6-3 Breakers against the 2-7 Gamblers. Houston looking to win 2 in a row to end the season against top teams, playoff teams. They could. I mean, why would New Orleans play anyone?
Yeah.
Especially because Zach Smith got banged up last week, I know, at quarterback for New Orleans. Kyle Sloter has been banged up a couple times this season. So I think they need to protect their quarterbacks at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans is actually 3.5-point favorites. 41.5 is the total. And as far as what New Orleans could look like, do they have any other quarterbacks other than those 2 guys? They do. They have. Their third quarterback is one, Mr. Shea Patterson, who started with the Panthers this season. So maybe we see Shea again.
Yeah.
Against a Houston defense that absolutely was just suffocating the Stallions offense last week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that Houston defense is among the top in the league. It's just a shame that their offense was so bad. But yeah, I think that this is going to be, well, again, I don't know if you can even call it an upset because it's the last week of the season. Nobody's really going to be trying, at least the playoff teams. I don't know about anybody else. So I think New Orleans takes their foot off the gas in this game. And I don't know if Patterson plays or not, but yeah, I think Houston's defense will be the ultimate winners of this game.
Yeah, they actually don't have that good of a defense when you look at, I mean, especially compared to New Orleans defense, anyways. 22.8 points allowed, 211.8 passing yards, 134.1 rush yards. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Houston. So I am on Philly, Tampa, Michigan, and Houston.
I think I'm with you on the second two, but I think I'm the opposite with the first two.
You're on Jersey and Birmingham.
Yeah.
I thought you said Philly.
For which game? The
Stars Generals.
Well, that one's the toughest one probably to pick because they're both the playoff teams playing against each other. So, and it's not going to matter for the seeding or anything because that's all already locked up. So, I don't know. I think it'll be a tough game, but yeah, it's hard to pick that one. But I got to go with my hometown Jersey team. So if I originally picked Philly, I'm flipping.
All right. So USFL news here. We had the playoff times set. Oh, I forgot to say the Breakers Gamblers game, 8:30 p.m. FS1 on Sunday night. The playoff games, though, the playoff day is set, their schedule. So it's June 25th is the day of the playoffs. And first game, Stars Generals, 3 p.m. on Fox. And then right after that, we got a Trace Atkins concert on the field at Tom Benson Field in Canton, Ohio at the Hall of Fame. And then at 8 p.m. on NBC, we have the other playoff game, Breakers Stallions. We're not going to pick right now.
No.
We're going to wait till next week to pick. But anyways, we have XFL news. The XFL has been very, very slowly releasing stuff throughout the last couple of months. They announced their directors of player personnel, the offensive coordinators, and defensive coordinators for each team, even though we still don't know what those teams are and what cities. But so the team has each, I'll just name who each team has. So head coach Anthony Becht. The director of player personnel is Dave Bowler. Offensive coordinator, this was one of note, is Bruce Gradkowski, former quarterback in the NFL. And then defensive coordinator, Nathaniel Donnie Abraham.
That's an interesting coaching setup.
Yeah, I haven't heard of Abraham or Bowler, but Gradkowski, played on the Steelers.
And Becht was a Jets player, so I know him from his days in New York.
Next team, head coach, first name Reggie Barlow. I'm trying to remember. They only have the last names on these pictures. So, but head coach Barlow, and then director of player personnel is Vaughn Hutchins. Offensive coordinator is Fred Case. And here's a good one. Defensive coordinator, Greg Williams.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Huh. That's it. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Next one here, Coach Jim Haslett. His director of player personnel is Randy Mueller. I believe I've heard of Mueller before. Offensive coordinator, no, I've heard of him. June Jones, back in the XFL. He
Yep.
was the head coach for the
I don't remember like any of the teams that they used to have in the XFL.
was it the Houston Roughnecks
Oh yeah,
or was it Dallas Roughnecks?
I think it was Houston.
Yeah, I believe that's who Jude Jones was the head coach for. I could be wrong, but and then the Hazlitt's DC there is Ron Zook, which sounds familiar, but not sure exactly. Head coach Buckley. I'm not even gonna try because I don't remember his first name at all.
Nope.
Director of player personnel is Larry Lee. Offensive coordinator Robert Ford, and defensive coordinator is Tony Carter. Not too sure about any of those people.
Nope.
Have not heard of them. Next team, head coach Bob Stoops. Director of player personnel is Rick Mueller. So we have Randy and Rick Mueller as director of player personnel for two different teams. Offensive coordinator Jonathan Hayes and defensive coordinator Jay Hayes. So I'm not. I guess those are brothers. I would think. It's
Some
spelled,
relation, yeah.
it's spelled the same way. So, head coach Wade Phillips, director of player personnel there Mark Lillibridge, offensive coordinator AJ Smith, and defensive coordinator Brian Stewart. No comments on those.
Wade Phillips, obviously the most notable of them, but
yeah. Head coach Rod Woodson, director of player personnel is Joey Clinkscales, and they put to be announced on Woodson's offensive and defensive coordinator. So
wait, you say Rod Woodson?
Yeah.
He's a head coach? Okay.
Yes. He's been coaching for quite a while. At the high
At
school
what level, though?
The high school level.
It's a little different. Maybe not in the XFL. Who knows?
And then head coach Hines Ward, director of player personnel Will Lewis, offensive coordinator is Jaime Elizondo, and defensive coordinator is Jim Herman.
I'm sure you're excited to see Mr. Hines Ward as the head coach of one of the teams.
Yeah, I know you're not.
Hey.
You lost him off your staff.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to have him as a Jets receivers coach, but I don't blame him for wanting the opportunity here. I mean, he had already left the Jets, though, I think, for something else. But, yeah. Even though he was a Jet for like a season or two as a coach, he made a fan of me for life because he was a Jet. So I hope that whatever team he coaches ends up being among the best in the league.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention that the Hines Ward was not with the Jets last. He was with FAU as their wide receivers coach. So okay. Next thing, we're going to NFL news. The Broncos have new owners. Not technically official yet. Takes 60 to 90 days to get all the stuff filed and but the Walton Penner family has bought the Denver Broncos $4.65 billion with a B.
Hey, that franchise is worth that much based on their history and all that.
That is a North American sports franchise record. Obviously, every time team sold is a new record. And in case you're wondering who the Walton Penner family is, they're the heirs of Walmart. Sam Walton. So the group has also had conversations with former Broncos quarterback Peyton Manning about an advisory role that could eventually lead to him being a part of the ownership group and having equity in the team.
I mean, I know he did a lot for that franchise, but I'm kind of surprised that like he would go to Denver over doing something with Indy.
I mean, Indy doesn't need him.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, if he had the opportunity, I wonder if he would go back to Indy for something.
Maybe. I don't know. So we'll see in about 3 years. The next general manager of the Denver Broncos is Peyton Manning.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. He'll be literally following John Elway's shoes.
Yeah. Okay. Free agent offensive lineman Laurent Duvernay-Tardif once again pausing his career, not retiring, he said, but he is going to begin a medical residency back in Canada, where he's from. It's kind of a weird one because, we've kind of it's not the height of COVID anymore.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Maybe he was getting any offers.
Yeah, it's good for him though that he because I feel like there's not many people, especially in today's NFL, that would pause their NFL careers or, I mean, end them. But I mean, we know he said he's pausing it, but who knows? Because he's on the older side of, or older for a football player, I should say. And especially for somebody that already took a break from football and now is going to take a second break, I think it'll be kind of tough for him to come back. But we'll see in a couple of years if that's the case. But I mean, he didn't do bad when he came back for the Jets. He was a solid guard for us for the year he was here. And I mean, there was a lot of speculation leading up to this that he was going to be re-signing with the Jets, but then, yeah, obviously he's choosing to do what he studied in school and stuff. So good for him.
Okay. We have a ton of news. Relating to contracts and whether a player will or will not be reporting to camp coming up this weekend. So, a couple of guys that will be reporting. And I don't know if you saw the video today of this guy, but Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, he is in the building. He reported to minicamp, and he will be practicing with his team this week. I also saw Kyler Murray was taking photos, the program photos with the Cardinals. Bills safety Jordan Poyer, he is also going to be attending minicamp. He is wanting a new contract from Buffalo as well. And then I just got an update on another guy who wants a new contract. And it is reporting, though. It is Saints wide receiver / returner Deontay Hardy. He is attending minicamp, reporting to minicamp for New Orleans. And for anyone that didn't know, because I didn't know, Deontay Hardy is the same person as Deontay Harris. Switched his name in January to honor his late father, I believe it was.
Okay, I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't want to like put you in the spot or anything, but when you said Hardy, I thought you were just making a mistake, and like because I thought of Harris, I was like, wait, isn't it Harris? I didn't know that, so I'm glad I didn't say anything.
Yeah. Yeah, same guy. Just different name. And then one guy we have listed as not attending minicamp. Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin. He will not be there. He believes he is worth what some of the other guys we're getting. As we'll see in the next couple of things here. 2 other guys signed big deals. So, yeah, McLaurin wants money, and the Commanders should.
Well, this is his last year, right? Or does he have 2 years?
He Yeah, it would have to. Yeah. He was drafted in 19, 20, 21, 22.
Yeah, he was the same year as DK and AJ Brown, I think.
Curtis Samuel. I don't know. I get draft classes mixed up. Yes, this would be his final season of his deal as a 3rd round pick, no 5th year option available. But yeah. But to get to the 2 aforementioned contracts that people signed, receivers specifically signed, the Rams. More money, just thrown out there. They signed wide receiver Cooper Kupp to a 3-year, $80 million extension, $75 million guaranteed. He is now signed with the team for the next 5 years and $110 million.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams obviously just came off the Super Bowl, and they, for the most part, have the same team coming into this season with the one big addition of Bobby Wagner, but they've fished out a lot of money this year too. Re-signing Aaron Donald to a new big deal, Cooper Kupp to a new big deal. They have the contract of Stafford and Jalen Ramsey still on the books.
Yeah, so the 5 big deals they did this offseason. Matthew Stafford, 4 years, $160 million. Cooper Kupp, 5 years, $110 million. Aaron Donald, 3 years, $95 million. Bobby Wagner, 5 years, $50 million. And Allen Robinson, 3 years, $46.5 million.
I forgot about Allen Robinson too. So yeah, they put out a lot of money out there, which I guess is kind of how they operated this past season and getting to the Super Bowl and all that and winning it. But sooner or later, that kind of business in the NFL is going to come back to bite them.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp now becomes the 6th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL at $22 million per season. The Raiders, they signed their wide receiver as well. Hunter Renfrow, the slot king. If Cooper Kupp is not the slot king, Hunter Renfrow is close second. Or Cooper Kupp is the slot king, I should say. Hunter Renfrow is close second, I think, anyways. 2 years, $32 million extension, $21 million guaranteed for Renfrow. So obviously Renfrow is never going to get top of the top market because he's not even the best receiver on his team anymore with Devontae Adams there. Yeah, I love it. I love Hunter Renfrow, and he gets paid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as big of a Renfrow fan. That's kind of hard to say, but it was a weird deal to me, like a 2-year extension. And I mean, I know you said like what?
Because he's old.
Yeah. Well, still, I mean, 2-year extension and only $60 million. I mean, I know, like you said, Devontae Adams is now the best receiver on that team and all, but I don't know. I feel like he could have definitely gotten a better contract on the open market if he wanted to.
Yeah, the Raiders have doled out $440 million in max commitments to 5 players this offseason. Derek Carr, 3 years, $121.5 million. Devontae Adams, 5 years, $140 million. Max Crosby, 4 years, $98.98 million. Chandler Jones, 3 years, $51 million, and then Hunter Renfrow, 2 years, $32 million. Just like the Rams, Raiders spending this offseason. Your division, Patriots. Wide receiver Jacoby Myers, he signed his second round tender, restricted free agent tender. He's going to make $3.986 million this season and hit the market next year, I believe.
Yeah, well, I hope for his sake he has a good season, because in the Patriot system, wide receivers in general don't really usually do good, but he especially, it took him a long time to get his first career touchdown. So, I mean, I hope he does good, just I hope the team doesn't.
Yeah, he will be a free agent next offseason. I think the Jets will sign him.
No. They don't really need anybody in the receiver room right now, especially nobody like him.
The Packers, they got one of Aaron Rodgers' favorite people back. They re-signed Alan Lazard. And I didn't get any compensation updates on that, but it looks like he's going to make the same as Jacoby Myers. So I get he was a second round restricted free agent as well. So yeah, $3.986 million for Alan Lazard, same as Jacoby Myers. But yeah, now I mean you got Lazard, Watson, Cobb, Dobbs,
Watkins,
Rodgers, Watkins. Not terrible. Not the best, but
I mean, obviously it's not anything like it was last year. Well, actually, I think as a whole, the wide receiving core might be better, but obviously they had a big loss losing Devontae Adams. But yeah, I think as a whole, though, the core is better.
Yeah, a lot of youth. And then there's Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb.
Yeah. And wait, because just since we're on the subject of the Packers and the wide receivers and stuff, did you see what Devontae Adams said as to the reason why he wanted to leave?
Yeah.
He blamed it on Aaron Rodgers' uncertainty, which, I mean, I don't blame him for doing if that's really the reason why he left. But yeah,
that's what I said. I would advise Devontae not to resign with the Packers anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And he forced his way out. The Bills signing one of your Jets. Jets offensive lineman Greg Van Roten to a 1-year deal, goes to Buffalo.
Good. He was not that great as a Jet. Hence the reason why he got cut after I think it was after we went and signed your guy, Nate Herbig, however you say his name. But yeah, I believe that was when they cut ties with Van Roten. And I mean, I didn't really like him. I know a lot of Jets fans that didn't really like him, and we're glad to see him go. And I don't know why. It just seems like the Bills take the Jets' castaway offensive linemen a lot too. because I know they had Brian Winters for a few years there. I don't know. He might still be there. I don't even know. And they've had a couple other guys in the past too, but Brian Winters is probably the biggest name that they've had in recent years.
Chris, while we're on the subject of Jets offensive linemen, you weren't here for the show last week when when we mentioned the Jets are adding 3 players to their Hall of Fame this season. One is Darrelle Revis. The other, Nick Mangold, also makes sense. And the third made me laugh so hard. Offensive tackle DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Tell me how the Jets, how he could possibly make the Jets Hall of Fame.
I mean, he was just as important to that line as Nick Mangold. I believe he only missed, I forget if it was one snap or one game or something in his. It was only one of something in his whole career. I think he literally missed like one snap or something like that. And it wasn't for an injury or anything. It was literally, I forget the story, but anyway, yeah, he was a very big part of those early 2010s Jets teams and the late 2000s Jets teams. He and Mangold together anchored down that line and made it what it was in that time period. Obviously Mangold got the bigger attention because he was the bigger personality and stuff and all that. And he seems to have remained in the Jet spotlight post-retirement. So I guess people know more about him and stuff. But yeah, Ferguson was right up there with Mangold. But I mean, I understand why people may think the way that you were just saying too, because I mean, he does kind of pale in comparison to guys like Revis and Mangold, but he was kind of like the quiet leader in the room when he was a Jet.
All right. There you go, people. There's your answer from last week. But anyways, getting back to news here. I forgot to mention this last show because I had it in my pictures, my screenshots from Twitter, but I forgot to put it in the script. The Rams rookie 5th round running back Kyron Williams, he broke his foot, had surgery on it, is expected to be back for training camp though. So bad start to the rookie season for Kyron Williams.
Yeah, I found that out on, what was that, Saturday night? Because we had our dynasty football or fantasy football draft on Saturday night, and I was looking for a running back, and he was one of my targets with the pick that I had. And when I had read that he broke his foot, that immediately turned me away from him. Regardless of the recovery time or whatnot, I really didn't want to risk a guy that already had an injury before even playing a snap in the NFL. Right. So, yeah, that completely turned me off from him. But yeah, but we'll see how it works out for him. I mean, he's like the 3rd or 4th running back on that team right now anyway, so. But I mean, we all saw what happened with the Rams last year. Their top 2 guys went down. And I mean, Cam Akers came back for the playoffs and the Super Bowl, but you can never have depth.
I was very happy about the draft. Didn't have a pick till 301. It was very nice to see Mr. Alec Pierce sitting there. So got him as my first pick. My second pick, I needed some depth at running back, so I got Tyler Algier with the Falcons, 304. 306, I got another running back, Zamir White. No 5th year for Josh Jacobs next season. So I'm hoping White can carve out a backup role this season and take over next season. And then came back, drafted a veteran in the 4th round. Got Hayden Hurst with the Bengals now, 406 there.
Mm-hmm.
My last pick, I had 508. Got another tight end, Cade Otton, who I highlighted in our NFC South draft recap as a potential starter this season, with the Bucks losing OJ Howard in free agency and not re-signing Gronk yet.
I mean, I think we both had pretty decent drafts in that league. I had, I believe, 105 was my first, or 106, whichever one. And I ended up with Chris Olave, the Saints' new wide receiver, as my first pick. But I wanted to go running back, but there was no good running backs to take at that moment. So I had to just take the best player available, which happened to be him. Well, actually, no. Let me take that back. The best player available at the time I was picking was Garrett Wilson. I would have loved to take him. The only problem is I already have Elijah Moore from last year, and I have Corey Davis because I had drafted him when he was a Titan, and then he got traded then he signed with the Jets. So I wasn't, and I already had also originally had Crowder when he was a Jet too. So I had the entire Jets receiving core. I didn't want another one. So I passed on Wilson to go with Olave, but I really would have loved Wilson there.
Yeah, 105 was Wilson.
Yeah. But then
Oh,
my second round pick, I went and I drafted the running back from Houston. I forget what his name is. The rookie running back for Houston.
Damian Pierce.
Yes, Pierce. Come to find out, though, after I had done that, my trade proposal that I had proposed to the newcomer in our league went through after I had already drafted the second round pick, but he accepted it anyway. So I got Christian McCaffrey for this year's second and next year's second. So his thinking with the trade makes sense, but it's a big risk for him, and it'll be a big reward for me if he stays healthy. But yeah, so I got Christian McCaffrey essentially for 2 second-round picks, and then third round was. I'm trying to remember. Was that when I took Tanyan from you, or was that my 4th round pick? I can't remember.
Third round, you went Matt Corral, 309.
Yes, that was that. Yes, because he was the best available quarterback, at least in my opinion. He was probably the. Well, I don't know if you could say best available, but he was definitely the closest to a starter that was available that wasn't a veteran, and I didn't really feel like getting one of the veterans because I need the youth in my quarterback room because I have Brady and Russell Wilson. Brady's probably his last year this year, and Russell Wilson. I mean, he did just get a new contract with the Broncos and all that, but who knows how long he's actually going to play. And my only other quarterback was Mac Jones, who I mean, he didn't have a great season and he didn't have a bad season. He had an okay season last year, so we'll see. But yeah, then like I said, I kind of stole Robert Tanyan from you. You made that clear in our group chat in the 4th round. And then the 5th round, I had 2 picks. I forget who I picked with my first 5th round pick, but with my last pick, I needed a defense, and it was kind of a joke, but at the same time, I think that the defense has potential. I had to just go in and take my Jets. They are my backup defense anyway right now. I got New Orleans as my starting defense.
Yeah, you had Tanyan at 405. And then before you took the Jets, though, you had another pick.
Yeah.
505, Pierre Strong.
Oh, yes. Yes, from New England, yeah.
Gonna be tough to make the roster. Just saying.
Well, I already put him on my taxi squad for now, so.
Yeah, I was mad about the quarterbacks. I wanted to get one late. I was looking at them, and I think no, Corral wasn't the guy I was looking at. I think I was looking at. Oh yeah, I was looking at not a rookie. I was looking at Davis Mills.
Oh, yes, he was another one I was looking at, too, because he's young enough and he has a lot of potential there in Houston.
Yeah, he got taken, and I was looking at a running back too. Late with my last pick, I think it was, and someone took him, but I'm blanking on who I was thinking about taking. Oh no, it was Dobbs.
Uh-huh.
Dobbs. I was looking at him. I don't think I was looking at any other running backs because they were all. I didn't like the rest of them. But yeah, Dobbs and Tunyon and Mills. I was looking at all those guys. Yeah, I can't think of. I thought there was someone I was looking at for the 5th round that got taken, but maybe it was just the Davis Mills thing. Anyways, that was our dynasty draft. Brees Hall, number 1 overall. So
Yeah, I really wanted one of those top 2 running backs, but with the 6th pick or 5th pick, whichever one I had, it wasn't happening. And the same guy got both of them, so got
All right.
Hall and
a couple transactions here with the Texans wide receivers. They waived wide receiver Deshaun Hamilton and signed wide receiver Chad Beebe. My guy, Chad Beebe, I mentioned him last week. So I wasn't sure if he was still with Minnesota or not, and apparently he wasn't. So
guess not.
Yeah, he gets another chance with my guy Davis Mills.
And I think he has a solid shot because, I mean, Houston likes to sign everybody that's already known, but they don't really have a strong receiving core outside of Brandon Cooks, I think. I can't even think of who the rest of their receiving core is.
Well, I have one of their receivers on my taxi squad right now. Might take him off before the start of the season, which is our deadline. Nico Collins, 3rd round pick last year. They have Chris Moore, Chad Beebe now, Chris Conley, who they signed last year, and Philip Dorsett, Jalen Camp. So yeah. I don't remember if they drafted anyone at wide receiver, but the couple of visits here, some big names visiting teams now. The Jets hosting Bengals offensive tackle Riley Reif for a visit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're still looking for the offensive line help because there is still a little uncertainty with Mekhi Becton, although he did finally show up to camp this past weekend.
Was he overweight?
No, he was in the best shape he's probably been in as a Jet. But yeah, he was. I mean, there's the mystery surrounding him, but I mean, for the most part, the Jets' offensive line is complete. I guess they're just looking for that one last piece, but I don't think it was really much more than just a visit because I haven't heard anything since then.
Yeah. I was very happy to hear about this today. The Panthers they hosted Seahawks defensive end Carlos Dunlap on a visit. They needed someone to replace Hassan Reddick, who signed with the Eagles. And I love Dunlap. He was very good for Seattle in his 1.5 seasons there.
Yeah.
And then an interesting one, the Saints. They are hosting Texans running back David Johnson for a visit. They have a need at running back behind Alvin Kamara. They need a new backup. So David Johnson getting another shot potentially with New Orleans.
Isn't Ingram still there? I'm pretty sure he is, or I mean, unless the fantasy thing was wrong, but he's still listed as New Orleans in fantasy.
Yes, he is there.
Okay. But yeah, obviously Ingram isn't what he used to be, so they do need all the help they can get. But I feel like they would need somebody more like Ingram rather than somebody that's more like Kamara. But that's just me.
Well, I think they have their future Ingram type guy already, and a guy that they signed undrafted last year, Tony Jones.
Oh yeah.
He's a power guy, so yeah, they have them too, Kamara, and their special teamer returner, Dwayne Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is all the news. I am not seeing anything new. So let's go ahead. Talk NFC West. We are in the 8th round of the draft. So starting off Seahawks. We got Seahawks, offensive tackle Charles Cross, Cardinals, tight end Trey McBride, 49ers defensive end Drake Jackson, and Rams guard Logan Bruss. Those were the first picks for each team. Cross in the first, McBride and Jackson in the second, and Bruss in the third round. But the Seahawks, first round, like I said, offensive tackle Charles Cross, Mississippi State, number 9. Second round, edge rusher Boye Mafe, Minnesota, number 40. Running back, the NFL draft website listed him as Kenneth. Every fantasy website listed him as Ken. I believe it's Ken. As much as I hate that it's Ken now and not Kenneth, I like Kenneth better. But Ken Walker, the third, Michigan State, number 41. Third round, offensive tackle Abraham Lucas, Washington State, number 72. Fourth round, corner Kobe Bryant, Cincinnati, number 109. 2 fifth-round picks, corner Tariq Woolen, UTSA, number 153. And edge rusher Tyreek Smith, Ohio State, number 158. Didn't have a 6th-rounder, and then they ended up 2 7th-rounders, wide receiver Bo Melton, Rutgers, number 229, and wide receiver Derek Young, Lenore Ryan, number 233.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with Seattle. Definitely, I thought they, at the very least, won the division in the draft. Charles Cross, massive need at left tackle. No re-signing of Dwayne Brown at this point. So, yeah, home run selection there. Needs to probably get a little bit better in the run game, but that's fine. He didn't allow a sack on like over 400 pass snaps this past season at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
The edge rusher, Mafe, potential upside is massive for him. Had a nice Senior Bowl. Ken Walker, all he did was lead the nation in rushing yards this past season at Michigan State.
Yeah. And just a note on him, as we saw in our draft on Saturday, he's a big commodity in the dynasty leagues. He was the third overall pick in our league, but he was projected as the number 2 behind Brees Hall.
I don't understand how, because they still have Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. So I mean, even though both are only signed for one more year, but I don't see it making an instant impact anyways.
Yeah.
Third round, offensive tackle Abraham Lucas, Washington State. Yeah. I mean, they could have potentially gotten their bookends in the same draft. And it's kind of funny that they took Lucas with Cross, considering both are coming from spread air raid offenses. Is that, that kind of puts the question out there. Is Pete Carroll going to transition? I don't see it happening with Pete Carroll, but
no.
The next coach.
I was gonna say that I think that Pete Carroll's he already knows he's not part of the future, so he might just be riding the season out, retiring after the season, and letting the next coach and the next regime set themselves up with whatever quarterback they want next year.
Granted, though, if they did move to a more pass heavier offense, for one, it'd make DK happy, and for two, it makes sense with what they have at quarterback, especially when you look at Drew Lock, because Drew Lock, all that he did at Missouri was throw the ball around. Geno Smith did similar stuff at West Virginia, but not as much. He ran a lot more at West Virginia, I think, and he was a little bit more balanced than Locke is with running, even though we've seen Locke, he's got some wheels too. But yeah, I think it totally makes sense if they're projecting Drew Lock to win the battle at quarterback. And throw the ball more with two offensive tackles that are good at pass protecting. The two corners in the 4th and 5th round, absolutely loved them. 2 steals. And just like the tackles, I mean, why couldn't they have their guys on the outside at corner? Tariq Woolen, I think, is actually more of a slot. I'd have to check his height. And because they lost DJ Reed in free agency.
Yeah.
So they needed someone else. And yeah, I have no idea why they're not projecting Abraham Lucas to be the right tackle. They have Jake Curran as the right tackle right now. Jake Curran, for anyone that doesn't know who Jake Curran is, he is a rookie from Cal. So that's funny. But yeah, the corners, they are projecting Trey Brown and Sidney Jones to be the starters right now. Kobe Bryant and Tariq Woolen are third string at this point. Yeah, Tariq Woolen is more than big enough. 6'4", 205. So you want to talk about going back to the Legion of Boom?
Yeah.
I mean, and Kobe Bryant a little bit shorter, 6'1", 198, but I mean,
yeah,
they're in the size.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely like Kobe Bryant better than Tariq Woolen, but I mean, I don't know if it's just because I know more about Bryant than I do about Woolen, but I got to know and watch Bryant a lot more because I had started to pay attention to his college teammate, who is now a New York Jet, with Ahmad Gardner. So I saw it, and I hate to do this comparison, but it's already been compared a million times because he's a Jet now. But Gardner seemed to get the Revis treatment a lot where he didn't get thrown to a lot.
Yeah.
And Bryant was getting thrown to a lot, but he was holding down his own when he was being thrown to. So, yeah, I think this was a very good pickup for them.
Yeah, and I believe Kobe Bryant won the Jim Thorpe Award this year for the best defensive back in college football.
I think so.
So, yeah. Not so high on Tariq Smith, Bo Melton, or Derek Young. It was interesting the Seahawks waited to draft the wide receiver, and drafting two guys at the end that were so. Bo Melton had a nice Senior Bowl. He's going to help in the return game. He can do some of that stuff, but yeah, they really didn't improve the wide receiver depth chart beyond Lockett and DK. Obviously, they're still waiting on to see if D. Eskridge can take the next step as a round pick from last year. But and they do have Freddie Swain still, who they like. So yeah, we'll see if either of those. I think Bo Melton will make the roster. He's slated as the 5th receiver right now. So. Your thoughts on any of the Seahawks picks that you haven't talked about yet?
I mean, I really only talked about, or I talked about the ones that I really cared about already, but the only one I didn't really make a comment on that I wanted to talk about was their first pick with Mr. Cross there. He was the 3rd offensive tackle off the board at that point. So, I mean, but it's not like he was the 3rd best one or whatever, because there was plenty of mock drafts and stuff prior to the actual draft putting him as the number 1 tackle off the board. So it's just, I mean, we'll have to see in the next few years which one of those 3 pans out the best. But like you said, if the Seahawks do change their play style to a more pass happy offense, then I think Cross will do just fine. But if they continue their ground and pound ways that they've done in the past, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I did like that selection. And prior to the draft, I was very nervous with their selection because they were the pick right before the Jets, and they had very similar needs as the Jets. So I was worried going into the draft. I was worried that the Jets weren't going to go corner with the number 4 pick, and then he would have gone to the Seahawks instead of coming to the Jets. But it didn't happen, and they went with Cross. And I mean, obviously, that was a huge need for them that they filled in there. And yeah, I think he'll do just fine there in Seattle.
Your grade?
I think I'd give them a solid B. They filled in a lot of needs, like we've said. You mentioned the bookend offensive tackles. They got a potential starting defensive lineman. And again, you mentioned their secondary that they are building that has the potential almost to be a Legion of Boom 2.0. So they have a lot of potential. Oh, and I didn't even mention Walker, who, like you said, might not get a lot of touches this year, but their top 2 guys are on 1-year deals right now. So, and I honestly don't see Carson coming back because of the injuries and all that, especially if he gets another one this year, which I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I think I would give it a B. It might go to a B plus A minus, but the reason I'm giving it a B is because this draft, I feel like for them is more based on potential than anything. I don't think they have a lot of immediate impact players from this draft.
Yeah, I like a B plus. Like I said, I was impressed with what John Schneider and Pete Carroll did the first 6 picks of the draft. I thought were very good. Filling needs, getting potential future starters, and a couple of guys that will start right away. And Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas, Boye Mafe, I think will start right away. I think Kobe Bryant could potentially start right away as well. So 3 starters, 4 starters possibly, right off the bat. And
Well,
then,
is Cross the only one guaranteed a spot right now? Or
yeah,
okay.
I didn't look to see if Mafe was listed as a starter yet. Mafe is not listed as a starter. He's listed 3rd string for some reason. So,
Huh.
but yeah, the last 3 picks were so. I probably liked other guys, but that's all right. Okay, Arizona, very limited draft capital. Their first round pick going to the Ravens for Marquise Brown. DeAndre Hopkins suspended the first 6 games. But they came back around in the second round with a, in my opinion, questionable selection. Trey McBride, tight end, Colorado State, number 55. Third round, 2 picks, 2 edge rushers. Cam Thomas, San Diego State, number 87. Myjai Sanders, Cincinnati, number 100. Didn't have a 4th, didn't have a 5th. 2 6th round picks, running back Keontae Ingram, USC, number 201. Guard Lessita Smith, Virginia Tech, number 215. And then 3 7ths, defensive back Christian Matthew, Valdosta State, 244. Linebacker Jesse Luketa, Penn State, number 256. And guard Marquise Hayes, Oklahoma, number 257. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, they obviously, I think their biggest pick was the one that you had already mentioned as being questionable, and I agree with the selection of Jeremy Ruckert, not Jeremy Ruckert. That's who the Jets picked. I was a little too excited there. With Trey McBride. Most people, myself included, had McBride as the number 1 tight end in the draft. And I still think he is. It's just Arizona was not a team I saw him going to at all. Because, they just re-signed Zach Ertz. Yes, he's older. Yes, he's not going to be there for the long term. But they also have Max Williams coming off the injury from last year. So maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they don't think that Max Williams will be able to stay healthy or whatever. And that's why they took him. I don't know. But right now, he's already competing with those 2 guys for snaps. I don't know if there's any other tight ends in that room. There might be, but so yeah, that was a questionable selection. But going back to the trade that they had in the first round, that's another one that I was not very high on. Obviously, yes, they need receiver help, but a guy like Marquise Brown, I don't know. I didn't see him being. Yes, he was a first rounder himself, right?
Yep, 28th overall.
Yeah, but I don't think he's worth a first rounder at this point. So I was kind of confused about the trade there. If I were the Cardinals, I would have rather taken my chances on one of those rookie wide receivers rather than trading for a guy like Marquise Brown. Yes, he has a lot of potential, and yes, it could work out for them. Because we all know that it's no secret that Baltimore doesn't play their receivers well,
and
they don't they don't really do well with their receivers. So we could be seeing Brown unlock his potential here, especially without DeAndre Hopkins there in the first 6 games. But yeah, I didn't like that one at all. And then I think my favorite pick of theirs, though, in the entire draft was you said number 100 overall, I believe, Myjai Sanders, the edge rusher.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was probably my favorite pick of theirs because I think he has a pretty big potential in this league, especially that was a big position of need for them. And you said they went back to back with the edge rushers there in that round. And I mean, Myjai Sanders was the second one taken for them, but I think he was much better. And like I said, it was a position of need for them. So yeah, that's why I like it. And I think he has a big opportunity here. Granted, I don't think he's the starter. I don't think either of them are a starter, but I think he has the potential to be something great. As for the rest of the draft, though, I mean, like, nobody else really stood out to me. Maybe Lucetta there towards the end, but other than that, like, I don't really think any of the other guys are worth talking about for me.
Yeah, so they didn't draft a single starter, at least in ESPN's mind, for this season. Yeah, I think really the first round trade probably might end up being their best draft pick, because I think it made complete sense to trade for Marquise Brown. Kyler Murray played with Marquise Brown at Oklahoma.
I didn't realize that part, but still, I don't like Marquise Brown. So,
and he fits the system of Cliff Kingsbury. And he's going to get an opportunity, like we've been saying, the 6-game suspension. He's going to have 6 games to prove to everyone that he was worth that first round pick, and to get himself a contract next year, because he's due one next season. So he's going to be on his 5th year option next year. So, but anyways, I liked that. Like I said, Trey McBride, questionable to say the least. They had Ertz, Max Williams already. Yes, Trey McBride is an elite tight end. He won the why am I blanking on the top tight end trophy?
I can't think of it either. But wait, does ESPN have him as the number 2 or number 3?
2.
Oh, so they do have him above Max Williams?
Yes.
Okay.
That's bugging me that I don't know the trophy. That's not what I want. But yeah, the Trey McBride thing was weird. John Mackey Award, that's what it is. Mackey Award. Trey McBride thing was weird. Cam Thomas, actually, he's listed as the edge on the draft, but he's gonna reduce into a defensive end, and fill in behind JJ Watt and Zach Allen. So he's gonna learn from a great mentor there. And we know with Watt, Cam Thomas more than likely is gonna play a bunch this season. So Myjai Sanders, true edge rusher. He'll fill in behind Dennis Gardeck at this point. I love Dennis Gardeck. He's a guy that not many people know about, but he's been pretty consistent. The guy I love in their late round, Keontae Ingram, has a fantastic opportunity. They signed Darrell Williams in free agency. They have James Conner, who they re-signed. But we know Conner's been injured before. Darrell Williams has had injuries before. We know Ebo Benjamin isn't a pounder guy. He's a receiving guy. So Keontae Ingram, for anyone that is doing rookie drafts, take a flyer on him. I was thinking about him. I was in between him and Zamir White. And I just went Zamir White for more immediate impact and the fact that Josh Jacobs is more than likely not returning next season for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Keontae Ingram's probably my favorite pick of the Cardinals in terms of fit and potential playing time this season. But I love Cam Thomas as well, too.
Mm-hmm.
Lucetta listed as a linebacker. He's actually going to transition to an outside linebacker in their 3-4. He played outside linebacker at Penn State, but they were running a 4-3. So he'll go and be a pass rusher in the Cardinals 3-4 defense. I wasn't a big fan of either of the guards. Their offensive line is actually pretty good. Humphreys, Pugh. They signed Rodney Hudson. They signed Will Hernandez. Probably the weak point is Kelvin Beachum at right tackle, but that's why they drafted Josh Jones in the second round last year. So the guards or whatever. Christian Matthew, he's buried on the depth chart at corner. And yeah, I already said kind of stuff about McBride and Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
But my grade for the Cardinals, including the Marquise Brown trade, I think that will probably allow them to get pushed to a C+. But I was not that big of a fan because I just didn't think they drafted well for need.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing that I had issue with was the non-drafting of a corner until the 7th round. Because it's not good. Byron Murphy is good. They're banking on Marco Wilson to be good. And then they have guys like Jace Whitaker, Breon Borders, Antonio Hamilton, Nate Brooks are the other corners outside of Christian Matthew. So, yeah, it's not good at corner right now.
Yeah, no, they didn't go for need really at all in this draft. And it was evident with their first pick that they did with Trey McBride. But I agree with the letter there, C+. But again, like you said, it would have been a lot lower if it weren't for, like, I'm not as high on the Marquise Brown trade as you are, but the fact that they did get a wide receiver with NFL experience, and I mean, I forget what pick they had in the first round, so I don't know who was available at that point because I can't remember in terms of receivers.
It would have been 21 because they lost in the first round. So
yeah,
it was between 18 and 22.
I think they had 22 because the Packers, I think, had 20 or 21
from the Raiders.
Yeah.
Saints had 19. I don't know.
But yeah, so still, I think that they could have even traded back and gotten one of those second tier guys like a Sky Moore or George Pickens, or I don't want to say Wan'Dale Robinson because I don't like him, but they could have probably gotten one of those other guys for a lot cheaper. But again, Marquise Brown, NFL vet, kind of, and all that. And the potential of Trey McBride, yes, it wasn't a need, but being that he is listed as the number 2 tight end, he should see a sizable amount of playing time. And who knows, he might actually be a key part of that offensive system. But yeah, because of those two guys alone, they're the ones that brought it up to a C+. Otherwise, I think the rest of the draft class probably is like a C-, C.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, moving on to the San Francisco 49ers. So their first round pick went to the Dolphins in the Trey Lance trade up last year. Obviously, subsequently going to the Chiefs for Tyreek Hill, but that's where their first round pick ended up being with Kansas City. But anyways, the other Niners picks, second round, their first pick, edge rusher Drake Jackson, USC, number 61. Third round, 2 picks, running back Tyrion Davis-Price, LSU, number 93. Wide receiver Danny Gray, SMU, number 105. Fourth round, guard Spencer Burford, UTSA, number 134. Fifth round, corner Samuel Womack, Toledo, number 172. 3 sixth rounders, offensive tackle Nick Zakel, Fordham, number 187. Defensive tackle Kalia Davis, UCF, number 220. Corner Tariq Castro Fields, Penn State, number 221. And then 7th round, quarterback Brock Purdy, Iowa State, number 262. You are
Mr.
up.
Irrelevant.
Yes, you were up, Chris.
Well, I don't really have much to say about the 49ers draft class because I don't really like any of them. I mean, Drake Jackson's okay. And other than him, the only other guy I kind of like is Brock Purdy. And obviously Brock Purdy being Mr. Irrelevant, he was almost not drafted. And he's a big project. Plus, they're not going to give up on Trey Lance just yet. But, I mean, I don't know. Is Trey Lance technically a part of this grade here? Because
No.
they used the first round pick to trade for him?
No.
Because I'm just saying, because, like, I don't believe in Trey Lance. I don't think he's going to be anything great. And they essentially spent their first round pick this year to get him.
No.
So I'm just saying. But yeah, they didn't have a first rounder, which right there kind of knocks it down a little bit. And I mean, I know the 49ers were probably the second best team in this division, and they didn't have a ton of holes. But yeah, I can't even see any of these things I like. Like, they went for some decent positions. I just don't like the players that they picked at those positions. Like, they're 2 third-round picks, a running back and a wide receiver. Running back, I don't know who was available at that point. Wide receiver, if they really wanted to, they probably could have gotten a better one with that first third-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I don't like any of these picks. So, yeah, I don't really have much to say about any of them. So you can go with your analysis on this.
Yeah. So I was kind of in the same boat. First of all, the Drake Jackson thing, I was like, why?
Exactly.
Why did you need an edge rusher? I mean, they've drafted 5 million edge rushers the last 4 drafts, or whatever.
And they have one of the best in the league still. So
yeah, and they re-signed him. You know, they got D Ford in a trade. They have Javon Kinlaw, who they drafted in the first round. Eric Armstead, they drafted. But then they signed guys who I thought were pretty good role players for them so far. You know, Kerry Hyder, Samson Abukum, Kimoko Toure, who they signed this offseason. Jordan Willis has been a great rotational piece for them. And I didn't see why they needed to go. I mean, unless John Lynch was just saying, all right, best available, we're going. But was Drake Jackson really the best available at 61st overall?
I was I was gonna say, if you went for best available, then they just had a really bad draft spot every round, because I don't think that any of these players were best available at the time they were picked.
Well, you got to remember it was best available on their board. So
That's true.
Tyrion Davis Price, looking at it, it actually looks a little bit better. They have him listed as the backup right now.
To Mitchell?
Yeah,
Okay.
which is weird because I feel like it signified we're like just throwing the 3rd round pick we used on Trey Sermon away. Just throw that right in the trash.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you draft Trey Sermon then? You know? And they have Jeff Wilson too, who has been good in spots for them.
Yes.
Kenny Gray, that pick also looks like it makes sense on paper. He's listed as the 4th wide receiver behind Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings. They signed Ray McLeod and Malik Turner in the offseason. They do have other guys that are not as high profile. Keyshawn Johnson, Marcus Johnson, Austin Mack as well. So, yeah, the Danny Gray thing makes sense. Not a receiver that I was very high on, but it makes sense at the position anyways. Burford is the 3rd left tackle right now. I don't know why he's listed as a tackle. He's not a tackle. He's a guard. But he's listed as a tackle right now. They do have a hole, sort of, at left guard. Colton McKivitz is a draft pick of theirs. They are also waiting on Aaron Banks to be something as a draft pick of theirs. The rest of it's just so. My guy, I got to shout out Tariq Castro Fields. I don't know why he's not listed on the roster on the depth chart for some reason. Not sure why, but I would have to think that he is gonna be in a battle to be their slot corner.
Mm-hmm.
They re-signed Jason Verrett this offseason. I also heard Tree Castro Fields was getting some talk of him being a hybrid linebacker because he is so good at being down in the box.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a possibility as well. They have one linebacker spot open in my mind. The Sam, where Aziz Al-Shair is right now. I think that could be a spot that Castro Fields could possibly take. But yeah, other than that, and Purdy, Purdy is whatever. He's going to be a good third quarterback whenever they get a Jimmy G trade, if they get a Jimmy G trade done. So, developmental guy, not the biggest arm, has a lot of physical limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Smart, very smart.
Mm-hmm.
The mid round, the Womack, Zakel, and Davis, I was not very high on any of those three. But go ahead with your grade, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, none of these guys, like I said, none of them really stand out to me. So it's hard to grade this one because I don't like any of them really. But at the same time, like, your explanation of some of these picks actually kind of boosted their grade a little bit for me, because I was going to put them down in the D somewhere, but I think I'd probably get them a C minus, because for the most part, I think that this draft class is really bad, but their top couple picks there with Drake Jackson. Yes, they have a million edge rushers, like you said, but they've also all been bit by the injury bug in the past, so you can never really have too much of them. And I mean, I didn't know that Davis Price was listed as the backup running back, so I guess he figures to see the field quite a lot. But yeah, other than those two, I don't really see much of an impact in that class. So yeah, C minus.
Yeah, I'm with you on a C minus. Drake Jackson, Davis Price, and Gray will all play this season. Castro Fields could as well, potentially. But yeah, I don't think Zakel or Womack make the roster. Womack maybe, because they're not that deep at corner, but they do like some of the guys that they have. So that could be a factor. Davis, I don't see making an impact at all. If he even makes the roster, depending on how many D tackles they keep. So, yeah, C minus as well for me.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite pick being the Drake Jackson pick as well. Okay, the Super Bowl champions, LA Rams. Mark's LA Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have a first round pick, didn't have a second round pick. Both of those picks, I believe, were Matthew Stafford selections. I know the first was. I'm not exactly sure about the second.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But regardless, they did not have either of those two picks. So they had the third round. They were last team to pick for their first pick. They went guard Logan Bruss, Wisconsin, 104 overall. And that was kind of funny because, why am I blanking? The kid from Chattanooga with the Patriots.
Cole Strange, yeah.
Yeah, Cole Strange should have been there. Cole Strange should have been at 104. He would have been a perfect selection for the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, there's the video of Sean McVay himself saying to the media and laughing about the Patriots selection of Cole Strange because he's like, we wasted so much time looking at this guy, thinking he was going to be there, and then boom, he gets taken in the first round.
Yeah, taken 80 picks earlier than they thought.
Yeah. So, but they stuck with the position though, and still went and got a guard.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with Wisconsin offensive linemen. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, fourth round, corner Jacoby Durant, South Carolina State, number 142. Fifth round, running back Kyron Williams, Notre Dame, 164. We already mentioned him. Broken foot. He'll be back to camp though. And then two sixth rounders, safety Quentin Lake, UCLA, 211. Corner Darian Kendrick, Georgia, 212. And then 3/7 edge rusher Daniel Hardy, Montana State, 235. Safety Russ Yeast, Kansas State, 253. And offensive tackle AJ Arcuri, Michigan State, number 261. I thought this was a shit draft.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna be so blunt about it, but yeah, it was.
Logan Bruss, yes. Like I said, Wisconsin offensive linemen have proven they're very good. And Sean McVay wants to run the ball more with Cam Akers and their other backs, Darrell Henderson, Kyron Williams now. Yeah, that was a pretty decent. Like I said, if Cole Strange was there, I mean, that would be great. But Jacoby Durant, yeah, he was all right at South Carolina State. I didn't think he was anything special. Kyron Williams is a receiving back, which filled the need left by Sony Michel. I did like their sixth round, though. Quentin Lake, UCLA safety, and corner Darian Kendrick, Georgia. I thought Kendrick especially was a great pick so late I thought he might have gone in the 5th at the least. Ended up going to the 6th. So yeah, I really like the Darian Kendrick pick. It's not just because he's Georgia.
Uh-huh.
I thought he was a good corner for the national champions this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was good at Clemson too before he went to Georgia. So
Yeah.
like that. And like I said, the Lake thing, it's going to be tough for him to make the roster because they already have some good safeties in Taylor Rapp and Jordan Fuller. And they also have some good backups in Nick Scott and Terrell Burgess. So if they keep 5 safeties, I could see Lake sneaking in there.
Uh-huh.
The 3 7th rounders, I was not a fan of at all.
No, I mean, like you said already, this draft class was, for lack of a better term, it was shit. Yes, like you said. So, like, I mean, it is impressive that they still ended up with 8 picks, though, considering they didn't have a first or second round pick.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if it's the lack of the early picks or what that makes this draft class look so lackluster. But I mean, they accomplished what they wanted to, though. They mortgaged their future for the Super Bowl, and that's what they went and did, and they won it. And they're still, it's not like this draft class was going to be an immediate impact anyway. We already talked about it earlier in the show, all the money that they're putting into their current players.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the Rams aren't being built through the draft right now, so they don't need these picks. And so, I mean, they're not really, I mean, I don't want to say they're not trying to have a good draft because every team's trying to have a good draft, but they're not really in a position to need the draft. I guess that's the best way to put it. But yeah, I don't really like any of their picks. The only one that, I mean, yeah, Bruss was all right. Like you said, an offensive lineman from Wisconsin. Should have been Cole Strange, like we've been joking about, but yeah, that's a fine pick. And the only other pick that I kind of like is the Kyron Williams pick. But again, with that broken foot, we don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, they say he's going to be back for training camp and all that, but we've seen it plenty of times before where a minor injury like that just kind of drags on all season, even if it's technically healed. So we don't know how he's going to perform this year or if he's even going to get on the field because he's probably he's the 3rd, 4th back on the list.
3rd.
Yeah. So yeah, this draft class, again, it's nothing special, but it's a result of their philosophy of, again, I don't want to say it, but essentially buying a Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, if the injury bug hits the Rams, they are done. Absolutely done. I was surprised they didn't take a chance on a quarterback late.
Mm-hmm.
John Wolford and Bryce Perkins are your backups. So have fun if Stafford gets injured. Granted, Stafford has not missed a terrible amount of games because he's one of the toughest quarterbacks in the league. But
he's played through injury, so
he's over 30 now. So it's not like.
Well, that's where I don't know if the 49ers would do it, but that's where a guy like Jimmy G or for the Browns, Baker Mayfield would come in.
That's the issue, especially with the Jimmy G. That's the issue. The Rams don't have the draft capital to trade.
Yeah.
They could trade. They could, if the Browns would finally tell teams that, yeah, we'll take on most of Baker's contract for less draft capital, then yeah, but it's going to be the opposite. They're going to take on money from Baker's contract, and that will increase the amount of draft capital you need to pay to Cleveland for Baker. that's why I still see both right now as second round picks, because of Jimmy G's success that he has had in wins and loss column, and the amount of money that Cleveland would have to take on in order for a team to trade for Baker. So, and the Rams don't have a second round pick, I don't believe. They might. I know they don't have a first next year, but they might have a second. So maybe, but they wouldn't want to pay very much in terms of salary because they don't have the cap for either. But yeah, the offensive line, they spent 2 picks. The Bruss one, yeah. They needed some help on the interior. Bobby Evans is probably the weak spot at right guard. So that is good there. But they're screwed at tackle if Noteboom or Havenstein goes down. They drafted AJ Arcuri. I don't remember him much at Michigan State. So that's probably a bad thing. Chandler Brewer and AJ Jackson are the backups right now. I can't tell you anything about those two. They also have Max Percher and Adrian Ely at tackle. So go read those men if you'd like.
I mean, it's the Rams' fault though for not doing this earlier, because it's not like losing Andrew Whitworth was any surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they really should have addressed it a season or two ago and had the guy sit behind Whitworth or whatever for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, but it's the same thing. Like safety is probably their deepest position where they go 6 deep. If you include Russ Yeast, I'll say 5 deep at safety. And they're pretty good at running back, like we've said, and wide receiver with Kupp, Robinson, Van Jefferson, Ben Skoranek, Atwell, Brandon Powell. So those are your 3 positions. Tight end is so. Kendall Blanton and Bryson Hopkins after Higbee. I mentioned the offensive line depth issues. There's defensive line depth issues as well, especially at defensive end. The linebackers are whatever. Corner's actually pretty deep when I look at it. So secondary's fine, but the front 7, there's nothing after the starters, really. So, it's a risky proposition to go in like that, but the Rams want to do it. So, but yeah, back to the draft class anyways. I am see this one we have to include the first round pick because it was for Matthew Stafford. Even that I don't think sways it enough.
Nope.
I am still I don't like to give out D's, so I'm gonna go C-. The Bruss selection is good. Kyron Williams was a need as a receiving back, and the Lake and the Kendrick selections I thought were pretty good in the 6th round.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same boat. If you don't include the Stafford thing, I think it's in the D. But if you want to include the Stafford trade as part of this, then yes, it gets bumped up to the C- for me too. Because, like, I mean, obviously they had Jared Goff, and they would not have won the Super Bowl this year with Jared Goff at quarterback. So I think Stafford was the reason why they kind of pushed themselves over the edge there. I mean, they had already been there with Goff a few years ago, and they ended up participating in probably the worst Super Bowl in the NFL history. So, yeah, Stafford was a big reason that they won the Super Bowl this year, and he's still a big reason why they are among the favorites to go back. So, yeah, him alone brings it up like almost a whole letter grade. But yeah, the actual draft class though was no good. So a C minus is the final letter grade for me. And I mean, since it's kind of tied with the 49ers though, I think the Rams is the worst one though.
Yeah. You want a hot take? Even though we're going to talk about our season predictions later down the line in July and August. Hot take: Rams missed the playoffs this year.
All right. That is a pretty hot take.
Injuries will accumulate. The roster is a year older. Yeah. But that is our 8th round NFC West style. Next week, we'll be back. We will be recapping Week 10 USFL games, the final week of the regular season. We'll be down to 4 teams. After that, we'll be previewing the playoff games at Canton, Ohio. I was actually disappointed, man. I'm going to be at in Ohio next weekend. Won't be close enough to go to the playoffs the weekend following because we're not in Ohio that weekend. But yeah,
it's still interesting to me though that like they decided to do the playoffs in a completely different location. Like they've been in one spot all year. And I mean, I know Canton is like the football center of the world or whatever you want to call it, but still.
Yeah, well, you had to too because it's neutral site. Birmingham doesn't have a home field advantage anymore. So, yeah. And then we'll also be talking about all the NCAA NFL news, and we will continue the 8th round with the AFC North. That is so for today. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Thank you, Chris.